Ready. Play.
Time for a deep breath as we get into some of the upcoming matches in Shanghai, which will be taking place pretty much over the next 36 hours. And we're going to begin with probably the story of the tournament, maybe not necessarily the match of the tournament, although we'll see how it pans out, and it may well turn into that. And I will have egg on my face, not for the first time when it comes to a preview. And that, of course, is Valentin Vacherot coming up against Holger Rune. Just before we went and click record, I said to Bren, I said, Valentin has been in the tournament so long that he started in September. We are now coming up to 8 days, I think, pretty much of the main draw. But of course, he came through qualifying as well, which included wins over Draxel and Basavaredi in two qualifiers that took place on the 29th and the 30th of September. Maybe for many of our audience, September doesn't feel like a long time ago, but for whatever reason, it does for me, mainly because I think we had good weather still in September, and now winter is very much here. You saw his match against Griekspoor today. Just before you address, Brenner, his performance today, but maybe also elsewhere in the tournament, I want to just enlighten our viewers and audience to a comment from Griekspoor after the match, which was, I played a good match against the world number 2 a couple of days ago. Today, I lost to the world number 204. Of course, he's referring to his win over Yannick Sinner. It was a win, even if Yannick was hampered through injury and ultimately retired. But he says that's tennis summed up in 2 days. And I think we all know what he means by that. And by the way, he says, it just goes to show I've chosen a crappy sport. I'll probably want to play tennis again tomorrow, but for now, I'm done with it. I would rather have lost in the first round than this match, says Talon, wearing his heart on his sleeve. And that's one of the reasons why we appreciate his comments. Brenner, tell me about that match. Talon and Valentin.
Yeah, I think it's important to put a microscope on a 5-all. This is a game. This is the 11th game in the second set. Griekspoor obviously took the first set, and Vacherot is facing 3 break points on his own serve, love 40. So he finds a way to hold, and I think even in that game, he got it back to deuce, and then I think he had to save an additional 3 points.
And of course, had he lost that game, then Griekspoor would have been 7 for the match.
Right. So we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But yeah, I mean, he had 6 break chances in the second set and squandered them all, he said. So yeah, I mean, this is just another showcase of the heart that Vacherot is bringing this week. Obviously, a big magnifying glass on this win, as he's from Monaco, and there hasn't been many players in the history of tennis to have successful runs out of that country. So this is a big result. Getting to a quarterfinal now of a Masters 1000. I think it is the biggest result for a player of the descent of Monaco. But anyways, yeah, from a game perspective, just serving really well and the ability to get out of trouble. And today, from what I watched, it was the backhand down the line, the inside out backhand. He hits it very flat. And we know these courts have it's been interesting, I guess, conversation to evaluate this week, because obviously you listen to all these players who talk about how slow it is, and you have to value that, right? Because they are the ones out there. But the data is actually kind of saying otherwise. But then you bring in the conditions in terms of the humidity, the temperature. It's just been tough going. So,
but it's been quicker than the players probably are.
Correct. Okay. So anyway, that really flat backhand down the line has been where Vacherot has gotten a lot of his points, but also his ability to get to the net. That's been, I think, an underrated aspect. So serving big, getting to the net well, and hitting the backhand very big and flat and low. So that's been a struggle for his opponents. But yeah, and obviously the athletic side of it. I mean, this guy has been really grinding it out today. Another 2.5-hour match. So it's just been a special week for Valentin Vacherot.
Yeah, he's been aided and abetted as well by a walkover in the previous round over, unfortunately, Mahatch once again retiring. I know he's had an injury hit year. Bublik as well. You never still quite know which Bublik is going to turn up, albeit he's a lot more solid than he ever used to be. And he also beat Zheda in the first round in addition to those qualifying matches that he won. And by the way, he was also a set down in both of his first two qualifiers before winning tight-ish second sets. So, yeah, it's been quite the run that could easily have finished on the 29th of September in that first qualifying match he had with Basavaredi. So, yeah, he had a three-setter as well against Bublik before the retirement, followed by... So, basically, I think he's had tough-ish matches. You know, Zheda was 3-4, and Mahatch was 0-1, of course, with the retirement there. But it's been a roller coaster ride, as you would imagine, for somebody ranked outside the top 100. And perhaps he is the poster boy, in a way, for the randomness of this tournament, which has seen withdrawal before the tournament began in terms of injury for Alcaraz. We obviously had the Jannik Sinner injury as well, mid-match against Griekspoor, which ultimately proved terminal. And Zverev as well being knocked out. Taylor Fritz as well, I think, having some issues. And so, yeah, decimated the draw in many respects. But also, in a way, for me, it's a bit better to have everyone out rather than just Jannik Sinner there. Otherwise, I just feel as though we're watching a procession towards, towards winning the tournament. So I quite like the randomness of it. And I think it's the problem for me is more that we've had, as I say, almost 2 weeks of this tournament and we're still not at the quarterfinal stage, at least in total sense. I'm just seeing if there's anyone else I'm missing from the upper echelons of the world rankings who's gone out of the tournament one way or another. Of course, Djokovic is still there. Ben Shelton is out, of course. So yeah, the draw is certainly decimated. Jack Draper wasn't able to play due to injury. In fact, his season is done. It's something I was going to do just before Sinner lost his match. Actually, funny enough, I was going to do a 60-second, 120-second short of this is why the ATP is messed up right now, because we're going into every tournament waiting for Sinner Alcaraz final, or if one is absent, we're just waiting for the other one to win the tournament. And then you look at the WTA and you don't know. We like and we have suspicions that maybe Sabalenka or Swiatek are going to win because they have been the two standout players of the year in so many ways, but we don't trust them entirely. Or maybe it's because we don't know what Emma Raducanu is going to turn up, or Marta Kostya, or Mira Andreeva. We just don't know which version of these players, even Donna Vekic, is going to just randomly just go on a run and maybe even lift the title, as we saw with Mboko, for example, just a couple of months ago, or Leila Fernandez. So you would not be, have a strange look in your direction with any one of probably 20 players on the WTA Tour. You could make a case one way or another. You might have a hunch. It might be because of last year. It might be because of something else. It might be because you just, don't think that Arena or Iga are quite there or whatever. And you can make, honestly, I don't think it's crazy for 20 players to make a case for them. ATP, it's you just can't. So yeah, but I've done that in a way mid preview and prediction. Let's get back to Holger Rune. He's the warm favorite though, despite Vacherot's heroics this week.
For sure. And I feel like this is we're getting the typical Rune medical timeouts throughout the matches, but he's been very, very solid this week.
Okay.
And I think I wanted to mention this as you're talking. At a point, it becomes, with the top players left, it becomes a point of like, all right, this draw is getting fairly thin, and why not me? And I think that's a case for Holger Rune. I watched pretty much the full match against Humbert, in which he was very solid. And I think that's kind of the way he's approached his game style this week. You know how his lapses and his peaks are, but he's been very, let's say solid this week in terms of not going for too much, letting the opponent play, but playing to his strengths in a sense. I feel like he's not overdoing it as much. He's hanging in rallies and picking his moments, getting to the net. So I think like overall, he hasn't been trying to do too much, which has actually worked out in his favor. And we know the athlete he is, just trying to survive in these conditions. He's very outspoken about how terrible it is playing out there, and that's why I mentioned him taking medical timeouts. I think in the first set, in the last 2 matches, but he's done well to recover, and definitely deserves to be here. Facing Mpechi Pericard is always a struggle because your chances are limited, but when the opportunity does arise, it's important to take it, and he did a good job of doing that, despite losing that second breaker.
Yeah, make sure if you get the chance, this is to the audience, to check out one of Holger Rune's returns off a 235-kilometer-hour serve from Mpechi Pericard, which was a backhand return winner, which, Holger, I remember 2022, 2023 in particular, actually. I think he won a few matches at Wimbledon that year, and I was just loving him taking the ball so early on the green grass at SW19. But since then, it's really been, I don't know. I don't think not the serve so much, or could be that. I don't know if he reads the moment so well, reads the game. I remember when he had Mouratoglou in his box, talking him through, and Patrick, rightly or wrongly, gets some criticism in terms of his coaching ability, but I think he needed to talk Holger through certain matches, particularly regarding return position. If it's not working for a set and a half, I guess just change it and see how it goes. And sometimes I think Holger waits too long on that, but he certainly got as he has really in so many respects, he's got all the skills to be world number 3. And that's what everyone's kind of fighting for realistically right now. But that was the physicality side of him. It's funny. I saw Gene in the live chat the other day bringing it up, and I thought it was a bit of a funny moment. But then I probably wasn't quite aware of some of the travails that Holger's gone through in Shanghai. Because actually, if there's anything that Holger has not put to bed, as we can see this week, but has at least, it's been one thing that we're not worrying about as much because we're worrying about a million other things, I think, with Holger. It actually has been his ability to be okay, at least best of 3. That's not the reason I've thought about him not winning a tournament in the last year or 2. And I think, of course, he was in the Indian Wells final. I don't think he's won a 1,000, or he's been in another 1,000 final, I'm going to say, since 2020. I feel like Monte Carlo 2023 actually is a line in the sand. Whether he's had good moments since then and had good runs, I know he has, but including Indian Wells final this year, I just felt as though that was almost like, his trajectory was going up until he probably should have won that match against Andrei Rublev. And for whatever reason, he hasn't quite been there as a person that I'm really thinking is going to be getting to this Grand Slam final or winning this 1,000 title. Maybe I'm being harsh on him, but yeah. But the physicality thing used to be an issue around that time. We thought he had everything else and he was going to be winning big titles, but the physicality was. Now, actually, I actually worry a bit less about it. It might rear its head again in this match with Vacherot. It might rear its head again against maybe Novak. I think it's Novak is in the same half, I think. So that would be a Djokovic Rune semi-final. I'll edit this out if I'm wrong on that, Brenner. But yeah. So what do you think about Holger Rune's chances in this match and just Holger Rune going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I have to like him here. It's always interesting, right? You talk about how long Vacherot has been in this tournament, right? Conditions he's very accustomed to now, played plenty of 3-setters. But then you think about the mental side of it. Like, this is the furthest he's, obviously, this is probably one of the bigger career achievements, getting to a Masters 1,000 quarterfinal. It just depends on how much you weigh. I don't know.
I mean, it could go both ways, can't it, Brenner? I mean, he could be just so chilled that he's having the time of his life.
Right, exactly. Once again, I always think about, like, is there nothing to lose? There's always something to lose.
But then it might dawn on him. It might dawn on him if he gets up a break in the in the deciding set or whatever. Oh my goodness, I might beat Holger Rune here and be in the semifinals of a 1,000, and then, yeah,
exactly. But no, I do like kind of the mentality, the the progress that Holger's made this week, and I feel like, do I dare say a little bit of maturity, kind of just based off
Ooh, you use the M
reading
word.
reading some of his post match comments, and yeah, like I said, I just think it's such an opportunity that you can't pass up on, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him, even in the final here.
Right. I'm just going to get the draw up actually and just confirm whether I'm right or wrong on that.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Myself.
I just think he is in the same section as Novak. I've had that on my mind.
He is.
So Rune versus Vacherot will play the winner of Djokovic and Bergs. We're both going for a Rune win, right?
Correct.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.